Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris and I just got done watching Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is based off the beloved children's book that compiles a bunch of scary stories that, well, I guess is good to tell in the dark. In this live action interpretation, we will see a group of kids enter a haunted mansion where they find a book filled with these scary stories, leading to horrific events in their lives. That's all pretty much said without giving any spoilers to you guys. Now, when Scary Stories in the Dark was being announced as a movie, I was like, heck yes, this is the little gateway that got me into the horror community when I was young. Who does not remember the creepy artwork, everyone fighting to get that book at checkout? You'd go to the library and the librarian would tell you, sorry, we don't got a kid, and you'd go cry and eat your fruit cup in the bathroom. Or you just grabbed a nice spy book. Either way, life wasn't that great. But not only that, you hear Guillermo Del Toro, who just recently won his Oscar for Shape of Water, is going to be producing and overseeing this because he was a big fan. You think, okay, there is some love and passion behind this project. And even with the PG-13 rating, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is proof that you don't need R to make a good horror movie. Speaking on some of the positives of the movie, like I said, even though Guillermo Del Toro is attached as the producer, I still have to give hats off to the director of this movie, André Øvredal, because he set up a beautiful atmosphere in this movie where it doesn't come off like your typical PG-13 horror movie. Maybe it's hard to explain, but if you go back to these January horror movies that are PG-13 meant to only bring in younger kids for a cheap scare, they have this generic, almost Hallmark vibe to the movies. But with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, they take the 1950s setting and go full throttle with it. When we get to the actual story, it's been done before, even by the Goosebumps movie. You find a book and the book leads to a bunch of the stories coming to life, but this is done 10 times more clever and faithful to the actual stories that you don't mind this cliched rehash plot of, oh, we found a book and the book has all these stories coming to life. The cast of kids you also fall for pretty quickly. They waste no time in introducing their characters and trying to get the story running, which is very much appreciated. The standout to me had to be the character of Chuck, played by Austin Zajura. Absolutely funny dude. Every time he's on screen, he had me laughing. He has these crazy eyes that even if he's not saying anything, his facial expressions will get you giggling. I can understand if someone finds him annoying in the movie, but I really liked and cherished every time this kid was on screen because this movie is pretty funny. It does a good job in balancing those laughs and those scares. And speaking on the scares of the movie, they really push the limit with their PG-13 rating. I was absolutely fine with them going with that because this is still a children's book being marketed to elementary school kids, so they weren't really going to go rated R with it. But even with them not being able to use gore and blood to their advantage, they still find ways to psychologically torture you, which in my opinion is the best kind of horror. Because there are some graphic, scary things that happen to these characters and I'm like, oh my god, this is actually frightening me. And every creature is given love to that is being drawn out from the book, whether you go from the pale lady, the jangly man. They are pretty unique and are well done in the movie where you're actually like, I would hate to be these kids on screen right now facing these demons. Jumping to some of the negatives in the movie, I only have a few, but before getting into them, I want to say this is a good horror movie. It's a nice PG-13 fun ride. I consider this the gateway drug of horror movies if you have a little one who might be interested and Freddy Krueger might be a little too much to start them off with. You can show them Scary Stories in the Dark and I guarantee you it'll leave a scar with them. Heck, it might even leave a scar with you. But with my negatives on the movie, it does take some time to get the ball rolling. Even though they introduce the characters right away and everything is set in motion, once they finally do get this book or are in the setting where the book is acquired, the movie starts to take a slow pace. It drags a little bit, but then picks right back up once the first story comes to life. So there are dragging moments in this movie where the pacing is a little bit off. And like I said, even though this was a well-done horror movie, at the end of the day, it was still for children. And with that, it had a pretty corny and cheesy ending. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the resolution the characters go through in trying to stop the book is borderline cheesy stuff. And it had me sort of rolling my eyes like, really? This is what we're going to do? Okay. But I will say, even though it had that cheesy, corny ending, the way the movie wraps up, I think is pretty ballsy, and I wasn't expecting it. I was like, okay, I thought they would for sure do this, but they're going this route and sticking to it? Alright, well, Scary Stories, you are doing it. For Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I'm gonna give action 2.5 stars. Most of the action is going down with one of these stories is coming to life, and even though a lot of the times it's just a character running away from a demon, it's still well done and different from every other story in here that you do find it enjoyable. Copying in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I was not expecting to laugh as much as I did. Again, this all comes from the character Chuck. Very funny guy, had me laughing even when he wasn't talking. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it it 3.5 stars because even though this is a cliched plot of, oh, the book comes to life and then all these things happen, they still do it so well done and in a clever fashion that you ignore the cliched plot. Horror in the movie, I am going to give it 3.5 stars because, like I said, even with this PG-13 rating, all these demons or creatures that are coming out of the book, they are given their love to, they are given their own screen time, and you would not want to be caught with one of these characters in the middle of the night. And suspense of the film, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars because they did do a good job of building up my suspense with every story that came on screen. You do wonder if this character will make it out and if they won't, and the anticipation for who's next on the list and what story will come for them. Casual fans, I'm going to give it an A-. Cinephiles, I'm going to give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it an A-. For scary stories to tell in the dark, I definitely think this is one you could add to your collection at home.
That's a keeper.
But that's just my opinion on scary stories to tell in the dark, guys. I'm very pleasantly surprised with this movie. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it would have all this passion and love put into the project. And like I said, this is, I think, a good gateway drug into the horror movie universe that when I have my little munchkin, I'd probably show them this to start them off with. If you get around to watching scary stories to tell in the dark, let me know what you thought about it. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.